Bring this meeting to order. If you join me in a moment of silent prayer or reflection, please. Thank you. If you'll join me for the pledge. Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and do roll call, please.
Kathy Cox,
Here.
Alan Ward,
Here.
John Maston,
Here.
Pat Rooney, Nicole Cohen.
Here. And we are going to honor our retirees tonight, and I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Meiner.
Okay. Madam President, members of the board, it's an honor to share this evening that we have our staff members in the audience tonight that will be retiring at the end of our 2016-2017 school year. And so each of their supervisors are going to be coming up and honoring those individuals. So I'd like to go ahead and start with Bobby Kearns. He's our transportation supervisor, and he's going to be honoring Michael Caribou.
A few cool things to talk about Mike. Mike's been pretty dedicated to our district. He started with us in 2003, before me, but came on as an activity driver the following year, went to special needs, and has been a very, very dedicated employee to that group of kids for, up until present. The 10 years that I've had the luxury and the pleasure of working with him, it's been an honor. His compassion and dedication to our kids has been definitely unmatched. Mike, there's not going to be an easy replacement for you, so you will be missed, and you've definitely been an asset to our district, and I thank you for your efforts.
Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Ruben Gonzalez, principal of Nautilus Elementary School, to come forward and honor Ms. Laura Porosky.
I don't see her in the audience. Mrs. Porosky is a truly natural-born teacher. She has been a dedicated parent and a teacher for the Lake Havasu Unified School District since 1990. Laura's career began as a volunteer in her children's classroom at Nautilus Elementary. She was actively involved with PTSO as the treasurer. Continuing at Nautilus in 1994, she became an educational assistant in special ed. In addition to her regular duties, Laura took charge of the Accelerated Reader Program and book library. With support of and encouragement from her colleagues, Laura returned to school to earn her teaching degree from Northern Arizona University. Upon graduating, she became a third-grade teacher at Nautilus Elementary in January 2007. Laura's quiet demeanor, positive attitude, caring heart, and generosity keep Nautilus Elementary an encouraging, happy place for students and staff.
Next, I'd like to invite up Mrs. Andrea Heller, principal at Jamaica Elementary School, who will be honoring Lynn Burns and Diane McKeel.
Good evening. I'm very excited I get to honor two people tonight. I'm first going to talk a little bit about Lynn Burns. She's the nurse over at Jamaica, and we share her with Starline Elementary as well. She is not with us tonight, unfortunately, but we do want to honor her. Lynn Burns came to the nursing profession after a career in real estate. She decided to get into school nursing after meeting her daughter's school nurse at Oro Grande in 1993. She received her AAS degree in nursing from MCC in 1995 and started as an RN at Smoke Tree in 1995. She completed her BSN at NAU in 2000 and then returned to be the nurse at Jamaica. Then the last 7 years, she split her time between the two schools. Thankfully, this coming year, we talked her into returning part-time. And we were very thankful to hear that she would do that. So we're so thrilled to keep her a little bit longer to serve our students. I did take a couple statements of appreciation. I wanted to make sure that my staff could share their feelings about my staff members as well. This comes from Lynn Edwards, who's sitting right next to Diane McHugh right now. Lynn has been with me at the district since 2001. I'm grateful for her support in helping me learn about Havasu, but also teaching me what I needed to help assisting in the health office. Lynn is caring and kind, someone you know will help you when she needs it. She's a great friend and coworker, and she's been instrumental in the success of Jamaica and such a support to our students and, of course, the staff. We're happy we don't have to say goodbye, and we'll see her shining face part of the day next year. Thank you to Lynn, of course, and for everything that she does every day to make our school a special place to work. The second person that I would like to honor is Mrs. Diane McHugh. She's sitting right over here in the audience. Diane came to LHUSD in August of 2002. She served as a parapro at Jamaica for roughly 3 years, then she transferred to Thunderbolt and served 6 years as an office assistant before returning to Jamaica as a parapro. We've been lucky enough to have her serve as our media assistant for the last 3 years, and she's been so instrumental in the effective transition of our school in the last couple of years. She is always willing to go above and beyond, always. And I know that our entire Jamaica staff will miss her. We look forward to seeing her face in the halls as a volunteer. There's just a couple of statements of appreciation I'd like to share for her as well. Diane's a great role model for our students and staff. Diane will always welcome you when she multitasks with ease, and somehow she'll celebrate your news, encourage young readers bringing their selections to check out, keep an eye on everything going on around her, and still maintain her composure, humor, and style while wearing many hats. I know she is someone I can go to for help and understanding at any time because she cares. She has the kind of presence that cannot be duplicated nor replaced, only admired and aspired to by those of us who have had the pleasure of working with her. Diane and Lynn are both more than employees, they are family. They have been an essential part of our school for several years. So whoever replaces Diane will have big shoes to fill, and we are beyond excited to have Lynn for another year. Thank you for your dedication daily to our students, and most of all, thank you for always being an outstanding support system for our staff. I know, I'm sorry.
Next, I have Mr. Brett Bitterman. He is the principal of Fort Grande Elementary School, and he will be honoring Linda Dukes.
So Linda told me two things. She said, Brett, keep it short. And she said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to do that just in her honor. Linda's actually been part of Fort Grande since 2001. She came to us by way of Canada. We kind of stole her from Kingman. She was a sub. And we were lucky enough to hire her. Her and her family became U.S. citizens in 2006. We wrote this little thing about our nurse. Linda has cleaned skinned knees, changed wet pants, cleaned up more messes than we could count. She has seen it, smelled it, touched it, heard it, and stepped in it. Linda is loved and beloved by our staff, and we're grateful to have her back. She's going to come back to us as a pre-O next year or so.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Connie Hogart, principal of Smoke Tree Elementary School. She will be honoring Gabby Velasquez and Deborah Weger.
Thank you. It is my pleasure and honor this evening to recognize Gabby Velez this evening for their dedication and Deborah to commitment to education. Gabby has been with the district for 12.5 years working in the developmental preschool. She's worked during the summers at the district office helping with special education paperwork. Gabby stated that she loved working with the students the best and has made lifelong friends within the district. Gabby, your coworkers have said they will always remember you for your wonderful advice, your sense of humor, you never forgot anyone's birthday, and that you have been a wonderful asset to the preschool, and you will be missed greatly. Gabby plans on returning as a sub for the preschool for the 2017 school year. Congratulations, Gabby.
Congratulations. All right.
Next, I'd like to recognize Deborah Wager. Deborah is a preschool coordinator and teacher on assignment of the developmental preschool. Deborah has been with our district for 24 years. Her professionalism is well known throughout the district and community. Deborah has taught preschool in the district at the various schools, Havasupai, Nautilus, and Smoke Tree. If you were ever at school late and needed someone to help you brainstorm teaching ideas or put together a behavior plan, Deborah was there. She's been our go-to person whenever we had questions or needed assistance with IEPs. Deborah, your team has stated they'll always remember you for your kindness and for your dedication to your students. Deborah stated that she's enjoyed working with the families and students along with watching her students grow up in the schools. She's been with the district long enough to have the children of her former students. She's watched her students excel, go into college, and return to work and contribute to our community. Her future plans include moving to Dallas to be closer to family and to be involved with her new grandson. Deborah will continue working behind the scenes to help preschool adjust to changes and to train new staff. Deborah, your lasting impression on the lives of the students you have taught and those of us who have worked side by side with you will continue on for years to come. Thank you for your commitment to our students in education and success. Deborah and Gabi, on behalf of Smoke Tree School and the Lake Havasu Unified School District, we wish you both the very best new beginnings. Deborah, would you please stand?
Thank you.
I say it's a preschool. We do a lot of damage.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
And finally, I would like to honor Mrs. Heidi Gray and Mrs. Cynthia De Batista. I'll start with Heidi.
Okay.
After graduating from the University of Northern Colorado, Heidi began her career in 1976 working for the Delta County School District in Delta, Colorado, where she served as a special education teacher working with hearing impaired students. In 1982, she left Colorado for sunny Lake Havasu City, relocating for her husband's job. Shortly thereafter, she began working for New Horizons and continued to do so until 1996. It was during her time at New Horizons that I met Heidi while working at New Age School as her son's preschool teacher. And Warren is now how old?
Way too old. 33.
In 1997, she became a member of the Lake Havasu Unified School District and has served in such roles as a speech therapist, my favorite, off-campus special education specialist / computer programmer and computer database trainer. Yes. And her current role as information management specialist. In her current position, she has worked to roll out PowerSchool and most recently Synergy, but what you may not know is that her responsibilities go beyond that. She submits student data to AZ Eds, provides reports, training, and writes for AD Connect, is part of the annual audit each year, and supports Blueberry users, just to name a few of her many duties. But most of all, troubleshoots for everyone. Heidi is invaluable and a wealth of knowledge. She has many connections at the state level and down in Phoenix, which she brings back to our district routinely. At the last ASCUS meeting she attended, Annette Moreno, the current president of ASCUS, told a group of 300 people that Heidi had been a past member of the board of directors of ASCUS and thanked her for her service. She said that Heidi has always been a leader in asking questions and sharing valuable information with the group. They also said they'd miss her sense of humor, which goes without saying. As a tech department, we will also miss her Christmas luncheons. In closing, I was asked to share this Pema quote with you. Our discomfort arises from all of our efforts to put ground under our feet, to realize our dream of constant okayness. But when we can completely let go and not struggle against it, when we can embrace the groundlessness of our situation and relax into its dynamic quality, that's called enlightenment. I wish you the best in retirement. Enjoy spending time with Steve and your grandbabies. And last but not least, Cynthia De Batista. I told myself I wasn't going to do this. Cynthia De Batista grew up on the East Coast and graduated from Telstar Regional High School in Bethel, Maine. After graduation, she lived what many may call a hippie life during the 70s. And I have heard many a story that I will not share now. Jumping a few years ahead, she made her way west to California and settled in the St. Helena and Napa area, where she enjoyed the wine country and met a certain young man named Fernando while working in his restaurant. They went on to marry, have a son named Cesare, and they ran more than one successful restaurant together. She recalled many times while running their restaurant in the Bay Area, having San Francisco 49er players coming in to eat in their establishment. During this time, she also graduated from Napa Valley College with an associate in science degree in business and commerce. In 2002, Cynthia and Fernando moved to Lake Havasu City. She began working for the Lake Havasu Unified School District in 2003 at Lake Havasu High School. She served as an administrative assistant to Mr. Claude Sanders while he was an AP, then to Mrs. Kathy Cox as the principal, and finally to me when I was the principal at Lake Havasu High School as well. She ran that high school like a champ, and I didn't even need to be there, as I'm sure Mrs. Cox will attest. When I moved over to the district, I asked Cynthia to come with me, and she agreed. I have never been more relieved in my life. She has served as my right-hand lady for close to a decade, and we are simpatico. We finish each other's sentences. She anticipates my every need, and we share much in common, including enjoying a good bottle of wine and a great meal. Even though she's ditching me, and I will miss our morning coffee runs, I wish her nothing but joy in retiring. She and Fernando will be able to share their walks in the morning and pick up and take off to San Diego to visit their son and their 2 grandsons whenever they like. She is very deserving of this time in her life, and I would like to leave her with this by E.B. White from Charlotte's Web. You have been my friend. That in itself is a tremendous thing. My hero.
And my other hero.
I skipped right over the call to public, and I did not mean to do that, but that might have been better. So I'm going to go ahead, if there's a call to public, we'll go ahead and do it at this time. And we'll move right along then to the High School National Career and Technical Education Student Organization competitors. Mrs. Becker will be coming up.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you so much for allowing us to come here tonight and to honor and to celebrate these students who have done some outstanding work, who have worked countless hours, Saturday school, done all kinds of preparation to prepare for their career and technical education respective competitions. I'd also like to honor their leaders, who are advisors, who are mentors, who, wipe their tears when they need to, And they put in a lot of time and effort and are very much appreciated as well. So and I know you guys already know, career and technical education is super important to not only our high school, but our state and our workforce. And these kids are leaving high school with certificates that make them viable employees before they even graduate high school. So without further ado, I would like to, I know they're not all here, but I will call up who is here and let you know how they scored and where they have the opportunity to attend nationals at. So I'd like to recognize FBLA first. FBLA, so Miss Laura Denny, will you come on up? This is probably our largest group that is attending nationals. They have 14 students that were eligible. Alan Elms scored 4th place with securities and investments. If I call your name, students, and you're here, just come on up. You guys are right here. I'll turn around here. Charles Tripp, business plan. Alexis Perez, management decision making. Derek Sanchez, management decision making. Jaylene Lopez, public speaking. Trevor Bartle, marketing. Nicholas Kuda, marketing. Jonathan Escobar, marketing. They all had 3rd place. Our 1st place winners here, Josh Victor, website design. Ronnie Goodnight, website design. Jonathan Gomez, client service. And Brendan Stiers for e-business. Brendan Stiers is also our state representative for FBLA, so he ran a campaign, was voted in by his fellow FBLA members from around the state, and so he'll be representing Lake Havasu and taking care of state business for us. So congratulations. Okay, the next group I'd like to recognize is Skills USA. For promotional bulletin board, Miss Crystal Norman, you want to come on up? Sure. Do I have any other Skills USA? We also had Mr. George Bagubi and Mr. Donald Miller, who had students who qualified to go to nationals. Yeah, okay. So promotional bulletin board, Megan McGuire scored gold, Savannah Kazi and Lauren Coletta, and they were a team. They did a team promotional bulletin board. Is Morgan Huffman here? Okay, Morgan Huffman scored silver for job interview. For career pathways, gold, Adrian Velasquez. Come on up. Adrian was part of a team with Hutch Johnson, Raul Flavia, and Dave Fabella. Don't tell him I said. Okay. This group will be eligible to go to Indianapolis this summer. Miss Denny, where is your group going? Anaheim?
Anaheim.
So Miss Denny's group will all be traveling to Anaheim. This group will attend Louisville, Kentucky. So congratulations. The next group is HOSA, Miss Jan Esme. This one is a little near and dear to my heart since I still teach in the health career pathway. She had 4 students qualified to attend. Jersey Arias, I see you're here. She's going for medical terminology. Seda Sohal, she's going for medical terminology. Faith Mendoza, she scored 1st for pathophysiology. Summer Gray, she scored gold for extemporaneous writing. And so that's quite a few. They are headed to Florida this June. So congratulations. Okay. Next, we'll recognize FCCLA Fashion and Nutrition, Miss Mary Niskanen. Were any of your kids here able to make it? I'll call them out just in case. Okay, so she had Hannah Condi, who scored gold for fashion design, occupational. Jordan Whiteset for fashion design, she scored silver. Paige Rouse scored gold for fashion construction. Savannah Burns for fashion construction. Jessica Alvarez, I know I saw Jessica. Where did she go? She was here. I saw her. Okay. Jessica Alvarez scored gold for fashion construction. Emily Cannon, gold for fashion construction. And then 2 of her students also got a scholarship. So Paige Rouse got a $1,000 scholarship, and so did Hannah Condi, got $2,500 to go to FIDM. So congratulations, thank you for all of your hard work. Early childhood, FCCLA, come on up, Mrs. Marie Hendry. Erin Roche and Zoe Manning scored gold for advocacy. Are they here? No. Heather Bagby and Sydney Cummings, gold. Hannah Walgreen and Phoebe Kyle, I see that. They scored gold for, they had a perfect score on their test, which I don't know that that has ever been done, and from what Mrs. Hendry can remember. And they competed in chapter review and display. Very good, ladies. Jessica Laura and Kayla Cheney, come on up. They are national contenders for chapter service project. And then Isabel Klechka and Sarah Oliman. They scored, they are national contenders for focus on children. So congratulations. Now you guys are headed to Nashville. I got the other one mixed up. So Nashville, this group is headed to this June. Congratulations. Okay. Our International Thespian Society is not here. They're sending 7. They are headed to Nebraska. They're headed to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I believe that is all of our national contenders. So thank you again, and thank you for allowing us to come and be recognized.
Congratulations to all the competitors and all of the members that are competing on behalf of Lake Havasu Unified. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to Expect More Arizona. Mrs. Davis is going to do a presentation.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. I am Donna Davis. I am the Senior Community Mobilizer with Expect More Arizona. We are a statewide, wait a minute. Okay. How do I make this go? Is it on?
Probably should turn that microphone on too, so you can just...
Oh, okay.
Mic's on.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not using it. Nobody else was using it, so I didn't think it was on. Okay, let me try this. We're still, maybe the thing back that way. Huh? Oh, bang that way. Okay, I'll click for you. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, so you can go ahead and click. We are a statewide education advocacy organization, and we're dedicated to the fact that every child in Arizona deserves an excellent education every step of the way. And I cover Mojave, La Paz, Gila, Pinal, and the western half of Maricopa County. So I get to see a lot of different schools and a lot of different students and a lot of variations in resources. So next slide. We do our work by doing presentations like this so that we can raise awareness about critical education issues. We hope that that moves people to take action about those issues. We foster statewide collaboration, and we highlight examples of excellence. Next slide. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about 2 things, the progress meter and becoming an Expect More Arizona partner. The progress meter is on the left side of the packets that I gave you all. And we did this last summer, and this progress meter is going to be, it's what our vision for education is built on. And next slide. And we are tracking 8 different metrics across the state. from teacher pay to preschool enrollment, 3rd grade reading, 8th grade math, high school graduation rates, Opportunity Youth, our youth between the ages of 16 and 24 who are not in school and not working, and we have a high rate of those those young people in Arizona. Our post-high school enrollment are the percentage of students that go directly from high school into a post-secondary opportunity, and then post-secondary attainment. Next slide. Our post-secondary attainment level currently as a state is 42%, and that's the number of adults between the ages of 25 and 64 that have an industry credential, a 2-year degree, or 4-year degree. And next slide. And unfortunately, our workforce is going to require that 68% of our students have some kind of education beyond high school. And the students that you just recognized, they will be successful, that's for sure. They're already being successful. And they are well on their way to getting industry certifications. Next slide. So in September, the governor, along with 40 other organizations, came out in support of the progress meter and set a goal for that post-secondary attainment level of 60%. And they are calling that initiative Achieve 60. I told somebody today, I said, when my boss told me it was called Achieve 60, I said, I already achieved 60, thank you very much. But anyway, our goal is that 60% of our adults have industry certifications, 2-year degrees or 4-year degrees. Next slide. And the other thing that is really concerning to us as an organization is the teacher crisis. We had last year in a survey done for the Arizona School Personnel Association, we had 2,221 teacher openings for 159 school districts. This year, the survey has been done with 50 school districts, and we have over 1,900 openings for teachers across our state. And then a lot of our teachers are due to retire. We just saw a number of people retiring here this evening. We just completed a study with Morrison Institute along with some other funders that really shows that Arizona ranks 50th in median elementary school teacher pay. Next slide. So the progress meter statistics can be called up by county and even by school. So this slide shows some of the Mojave County statistics, and then under the second blue line, that's Mojave and La Paz counties combined. And you're doing well, especially in preschool enrollment. You outrank the state numbers in that. Your post-secondary attainment levels are 23%, but that does not include industry certificates, because the state level data had that industry certificate number in it, but we can't get that for the counties. Next slide. And this is an example of what you would see if you put in an elementary school name into the education evaluator website at the bottom of the page here. Then you can get the 8th grade math and 3rd grade reading levels for that school according to AZ Merit scores from last year. And then on the next slide, you'll see the high school example where you can get the high school graduation rate and the college going rates for a high school. Okay, next slide. So we do the bulk of our work through partners. We hope that our partners we want our partners to agree to this mission that we need to support this progress meter and support the advancement of some of these metrics. And it's free to become a partner, and then we depend on our partners to get messages out to their community and to build support for education in their communities. So one of the reasons I'm here is because with the Achieve 60, we have been doing some city-town initiative and asking cities and towns to adopt the progress meter and issue a proclamation or a resolution in support of the progress meter. And we met with Mayor Nexon a few weeks ago, and he was very supportive. You guys have had this huge community initiative to get that big $2 million award that you just received. Congratulations to all of you. And so our partners, when you sign on to be a partner, you receive priority access to staff members. We do presentations like this throughout the community, website acknowledgement on our website, and an opportunity to influence our advocacy efforts. We send out a survey every year to our partners and ask them which things are most important to them for advocacy for that next year. And next slide. We give you a world-class education logo to display on your website or on a window cling on a door. You have access to resources, and on the right side of your packet, There's all kinds of parent resources that we have available for college and career, information about AZ Merit, grade sheets for each grade that tell parents some of the skills their child will need to know in English and math for that grade. There's a list of our partners. Mr. Maston is a partner with us because I came up and gave him flyers and T-shirts for the bond and override election. So his company's already a partner with us. On the left side of your packet, you'll see the results of our poll, our 2017 advocacy agenda, some information that we're sharing about the teacher crisis, how citizens' votes make a difference for education, information about bonds and overrides. And then the next slide really highlights, well, that's our world-class education partner emblem, so the next slide, and the next slide, and the next slide. I forgot how many slides I had in here. This sheet that's on the left side of your packet, we are always looking for examples of excellence to highlight on our website, and then we share those examples of excellence with the legislators that cover that district, and then we share those examples too in our community presentations to let citizens know that there's great and wonderful things already going on in their communities. We also, every Tuesday, recognize a teacher on Facebook, and we have already recognized Ginny Sotner from this district on our Facebook page, and so every Tuesday we post their picture and a little statement about why they teach. And we get a lot of public, comments on those Facebook posts. So I'm here today to ask you to sign the partner agreement, to say that you support the metrics highlighted in the progress meter, and to hopefully to identify some stories of success from your district that we can highlight on our website. And next slide. And so that's all I have tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Thank you for coming and presenting.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
letting me.
So if I may interject, I do want to share that Mrs. Davis shared all of the information in terms of the materials, but we also would be able to get up to 5,000 copies of any of those materials. So as we talk about our community, that would be lovely to be able to have some of those materials for our students. This actually came about as well because when Mrs. Davis met with the mayor was being asked to commit to these goals of 60% college completion rate, and his comment was, we do that in partnership with our school district. We don't do that as a city. And so his suggestion was perhaps that we consider as a city and a school district doing a joint resolution supporting the goals of the Expect More Arizona, which is that 60% attainment rate. And so that was the question in terms of if there's an interest of the board in doing so, we would be more than happy to develop some language and talk about perhaps doing a joint resolution.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, I believe we're going to have Ms. Nowakowski from the Lake Havasu City Education Association give us an update.
Okay. Well, first of all, happy Teacher Appreciation Day. As most of you probably are aware, the Arizona State budget is the big topic as the 53rd legislative session begins to wrap up. Conversations that were heard among many educators Thursday night was the hope for a 4% increase to the budget for classrooms. Legislators voted for a 2%, one this year, one next, but that was better than the original, which was 2% over 5 years. Let's see here, moving over to here. Legislators had a last chance effort to amend the ESSA, the voucher bill, but unfortunately Representative Bolding's amendment did not pass. So as the session wraps up and we are seeing more conversations on the ESSA bill, there is talk about filing paperwork to begin gathering signatures to place a referendum in November 2018 ballot to stop the expansion bills. So once I hear more, I will pass it on and hopefully gather signatures. Last but not least, there has been a lawsuit filed against the state for the lack of capital funding. How does that affect Lake Havasu Unified School District? Well, over the last 9 years, Lake Havasu LHUSD has been underfunded over $15 million. This year alone, out of the $2.5 million that we were supposed to get in the capital funding, we only received $377,000. That's less than 15%. Okay. So what we are asking our state legislators and our state, just hashtag fund the formula. That's all we're asking. But until then, we have a lawsuit. And this just came across from one of our parents, Cullivers. They are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Day, so they said come on down and get your free pint.
Pint of ice cream. Yes, exactly. Custard.
Carol,
Yes?
do you want to share what happened with the high school sign-up?
Yeah, sure, but we haven't wrapped around with my connector, so I don't know what actually happened. We received notice today that Senate Bill 1156 that we've been hoping for has been, or there is an amendment. So over the last few years, I've really learned about how legislation works, and at the last minute of budgets, they like to throw things in at the end. Well, that would have been like the 4%, and we were asking for that amendment. Well, here's another amendment that they've added to Senate Bill 1156, and we are hoping that they say no on that amendment, but we're afraid that if they say no, they're going to be also saying no on SB 1156. So we're watching it closely. Did you watch it, Madam President, today at all, or?
I communicated a bit with Senator Borelli, but there was no updates as of the time that I came in. I know it was in the committee of the whole, but I'm not sure what happened after that.
The video footage that I saw from the Republican caucus, which was the last time they had conversation about it, which was Monday, the actual bill itself, I'm just scared for it because they're acting as if it's just a Havasu issue, and that's my concern, is that that's what they think. And unfortunately, we haven't had enough people standing up, and so that's where we're at. So that's what I think.
Fingers crossed.
But Cullivers, I want to leave on a good note.
It's ice cream now.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Any questions? Terry?
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. Old business action items. Action item 5.1, the second presentation and review of revised policies BGD, Board Review of Regulations, and LBD and LBDE, Relations with Charter Schools. Mrs. Asire.
Yes, Madam President, this is the second presentation of these policies. The Board Review of Regulation has had a portion of the wording removed that is not necessary, and the Relations with Charter Schools has completely been deleted. There have been no changes since the first reading on April 18th.
I move that we approve 5.1 as presented.
I second it.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll call for the vote.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 5.2, second presentation and review of revised policy JRR student surveys. Mrs. Asire.
Madam President, this is the second presentation of the revised JRR student survey policy. The board spent quite a bit of time on this policy previously in the year. This revision adds some additional language to the bill, or excuse me, to the policy, and it also has been changed since the first reading to add SIPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act, as one of the areas with which we will comply.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move we accept 5.2 as amended.
In a second.
Second.
Any questions? Discussion? call for the vote.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 5.3, second presentation review of revised policy GDJ, support staff assignments and transfers. Mrs. Minor.
Madam President and members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve the second presentation of revised policy GDJ, support staff assignments and transfers. There have been no changes to this policy since the first reading on April 18th, 2017.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 5.4, second presentation and review of revised policy KHB, advertising in schools. Mrs. Asire.
Madam President, this is the second reading. There have been no changes. This policy does add a section in relation to interactive technology that any advertisements that require students to enter personal information shall be denied.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion we accept 5.4 as presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion? We'll call for the vote.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 5.5, approval of the Thunderbolt Middle School Student Handbook for 2017-18. Mrs. Asire? You going to take that? or-
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the second reading of the Thunderbolt Handbook. We did initially postpone these handbooks for some minor revisions. We will be looking at them in more depth during this year. Their minor revisions to all of the handbooks include some wording changes as well as some dress code changes.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I'll move we accept 5.5 as presented.
I second.
Any questions or discussion?
What dress code changes were made?
We did add, there were sections in each of our handbooks, so this would apply for the elementary as well as the high school handbook, that we're talking about addressing some of the issues we've received and complaints from the community regarding the modesty of dress for our students. And so we have added a requirement for the length of shorts or skirts to be, if you're standing up straight, they must at least be fingertip length. So that is the change in the dress code handbook for our schools.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Go ahead and call for the vote.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 5.6, approval of the elementary school student handbook for 17-18. Mrs. Asire.
Yes. This is the same information as was presented for the Thunderbolt handbook. Some minor changes have been made, and it will be revised and shortened for the 17-18, or excuse me, the 18-19 school year. I would like to add that because the elementary handbook applies to all of the elementaries, it is posted online, and one of the areas that have been added is all of the links are live. So any reference to any statute, policy, other place on the website, there are live links to those sites.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move we approve 5.6 as presented.
I second it.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. New business action items. 6.1, renewal of the Tahoe food service contract for 17-18. Mr. Murray.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve renewal of the contract with Tahoe Food Service for the fiscal year 2017-18. In 2014, the district approved a 5-year contract with Tahoe with 4 annual renewals. This contract can be mutually canceled or renewed by both parties. If this action item is approved, it would be the 3rd renewal of the contract, and the renewal document has been submitted to the Arizona Department of Education and has been approved. A copy is attached for the board's review, and there is a representative from Tahoe here to answer your questions if you have them.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move we approve 6.1 as presented.
Second.
Any questions?
I'm going to re-ask a question I asked at the work session about food waste. And how have we come along with the representative from Mojave County Health in relation to the food waste issue? And have we gotten any further with it since that work session a week ago?
No, we haven't. I've got a call into her. We played a little phone tag, so I haven't spoke with her this week.
Okay, all right. And basically what we discussed at the work session was the fact that we try to recover what the children are not wanting to eat. But we've got a new sanitarian from the health department who's trying to change that policy or that procedure.
Right. What they were saying is that we could not have a shared table for the children to put food into whole fruits and other children take out. So what we're working on is we're going to have a container where if a child does not want an apple or an orange, it can go into that container and it can go get re-sanitized later, and a child can actually go back up to the salad bar and take another piece of fruit, vegetables off of that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? I'll call for the vote.
John Maston?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. 6.2, award of bid for the E-rate eligible equipment and services, network equipment, network cabling, and wireless system. Mrs. Minor.
Madam President and members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the award of contract for E-rate eligible equipment and services as defined in RFP 16-17-08 to Logicalis in an amount not to exceed $1,106,255.32. Request for proposal 16-17-08 was approved by the governing board and released on March 31st, 2017. In accordance with federal E-rate regulations, Form 470 and RFP 16-17-08 were posted on the USAC E-rate platform, which opened formal competitive bidding for the requisite period of 28 days. The RFP was also posted to the LHUSD website. A pre-bid meeting was held on April 12, 2017 at 10 a.m. at the district office. Potential bidders were invited to meet with LHUSD staff to ask clarifying questions about the project and survey facilities if requested. In attendance were 4 staff members from LHUSD Tech Department and 2 people representing 1 potential bidder. A total of 3 bids were received. Bids were opened and recorded on May 1st, 2017. A bid evaluation and scoring was performed on May 4th, 2017 by Denise Miner, Director of Personnel and Technology, Peter Medley, Network Manager, Susan Schendel, Computer Technician, and Monica Marks, Technology Administrative Assistant. A summary of the points awarded are listed. The solutions proposed in Logicalis' bid are consistent with industry standards for educational facilities. Initial funding for this project will come from the sale of school improvement bonds as outlined in the Citizens for Havasu Schools document entitled Allocation of Capital Improvement Expenditures. If approved, district staff will file an E-rate Form 471, vendor selection and request for funding commitment prior to the May 11, 2017 deadline. Upon receipt of an E-rate funding commitment, district staff will file the paperwork necessary to recover approximately 80% of eligible costs. This project is scheduled to commence on July 1st, 2017 or sooner if possible, and is targeted for completion prior to the start of school in August. This item has been reviewed and approved by the business office. A representative from Logicalis is present tonight and available to answer questions about the project.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for action item 6.2?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
I just wanted to point out for those that aren't familiar, E-rate, and correct me if I'm wrong, the E-rate is an effort through the federal government to provide broadband access to all the schools so that they can then do the mandatory testing that they're required to do. Is that correct?
Monica, do you want to share E-rate? Did you hear what she said?
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more than just for the mandatory testing. It's just for internet access for education purposes in general.
Yeah, the law came down as, it's an extra telecommunications tax we all pay. That's federally mandated that allows for broadband infrastructure inside of schools. Testing was not a part of the original intent of E-rate. Does that help?
It also used to pay for voice,
Mhm.
and that's been phased out over the years, and I think this is the last year they're paying 20% of voice, and then next year it's gone completely.
Okay, thank you.
So, the question that kind of has come up in discussions, I mean, we're getting roughly 80% of this paid for via E-rate, and this was also part of the bond. If we're reimbursed with E-rate, was that part of the calculation when we did the bond? Or is the 80% we get back found money? How is that going to work out?
It was not calculated when we did the bond, correct?
So E-rate is found money? Okay.
Because it's not guaranteed.
Okay, and if we do get the 80% back, what is our thought process in spending that?
Well, we'll have to work as a committee to make that decision. We could use that funding to move forward with some other of our tech projects that are listed in the bond.
Okay. And then for Logicalis rep, the guys in the shirts.
Yes. We tried to blend in.
No, good. No. I've seen the map out for the high school, and I've seen the one with the 108 access points, and I've seen the one with 64 access points. Did you use a spectrum analyzer to determine either one of those maps, or was that basically a mapping system that you have on a computer in a best guess?
Yeah, that's exactly. It's a predictive mapping method that we use based on, the structure of the building, the map that's been provided to us, and the placement of the access points.
So, as you put those in, are you going to start with the 64 and work your way out? Or is that something that has to be decided by our tech staff, or how is that going to work?
So I would say at this point, industry standards from what we're seeing currently, with other school districts around the state, it's typically 1-for-1 in the classroom, primarily for the reason of access to the access point. In other words, most of your students, you're probably going to have anywhere from 25 to 30 students per classroom. I think we've seen, where we find that there are connectivity issues if you try to separate the access points too far apart and you try to overload an access point with too many users.
Right, right. So what do you think your average load on an access point will be? Are we talking 10 students, 20 students, 30 students?
I would say the average is probably 20. I would
Okay.
think is the pretty much, what we're seeing across the state with all the school districts that we're doing. I would say about 20 per classroom.
And do you have a minimum signal-to-noise ratio that you're going to use to determine placement?
Well, some of the signal-to-noise ratio, and I'm not a tech, so let's just clarify for one. I'm an account executive and I'm sales. So I'm missing the brains here. If you want,
I was waiting for you to ask.
And that means you're a good tech, by the way, if you're going to let him go under the bus first.
I was waiting for him to actually say something that was wrong, and then correct it at that point. But actually, from the signal-to-noise ratio, which was what your question was, we don't expect much to happen from within the classrooms themselves.
Right.
What we really are expecting it more is in the hallways and within the outside areas that could be potentially done. During the implementation of that, we'll be testing those as we are doing those placements. Usually there is a addition of cable at the end to be able to give a little bit of leeway for where we can mount those.
Okay.
But it will be tested during the implementation.
All right. And then do you have a minimum specification that you go to for that? I mean, is it like a -65, a -60?
I personally do not know that answer.
Okay.
We have a team that's dedicated to doing wireless, and they've been doing this across the entire state. And they do have standards. I just happen to not to know exactly what that measurement is today.
Okay. And within this, do we have anything working its way out to, say, a press box at the football field or down into the baseball field inside of this bid? Do
That
we
was
know?
outside the scope, to my knowledge.
It's outside the scope?
Yes.
Okay.
it was within the school itself.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Fox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen.
Yes. We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute recess if anybody needs to use the restroom. I know, and allow our guests to disembark if they would like to before we get to the fun stuff, but we'd love to have you all stay. We're going to go ahead and resume. Lisa Sire, she'll be right back. I think she knows what you're going to speak about. All right, action item 6.3, approval of the 2016-17 revised budget. Mr. Murray.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the 2016-17 revised budget. It is recommended that the governing board approve any over expenditures of the following funds for the fiscal 2017 year in the areas of regular education, special education, and pupil transportation. And I will make a presentation if that's okay this time.
Yeah, can I get a motion for action item 6.3?
I move that we accept 6.3 as presented.
Second.
Terry. We'll go ahead and call for the vote, and then he can give the presentation so we can go straight into questions.
Well, we don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not thinking clearly. Mr. Murray, go ahead.
So the 2017 revised budget, the purpose of the budget, per Arizona statute Title 15, school districts must revise their adopted expenditure budget and obtain governing board approval before the 15th of May of each year. Resources that were used and that are used in the revision process of the ADE reports, you can see them listed there. Numerous reports from special ed, transportation, ELL, classroom site funds. Those are the reports that are accessed and looked at to compare what is currently in the adopted budget versus what the ADE actually has for their actual numbers that we should be aligned with. So at a glance, the governing board members actually have the budget in front of them, the revised budget. But at a glance, for those who are in attendance, major portions of the revision process actually center around average daily membership or student count. That's how that's how basically the funding is determined for school districts. So in the adopted budget, which occurred at the end of last school year for this school year, the weighted student count was 6,815 students, 0.56. So it was that number determined was that actual weighted student count for both regular ed and also including special ed students. There's additional weights that are given to students based on their level of need to service them more appropriately. The revised budget that is occurring now, or just occurred, based on the APOR 55-1 report, the revised budget, or the revised ADM, is going to reflect student ADM of 6,864.201. So you can see that there is a gain of about close to 49 weighted students. So that's a good thing. So that means per ADE, we actually have more students, weighted count students, than was actually initially budgeted for at the first adoption back in June of last year, or early July. So if you take the adopted number of weighted student count and you multiply that by the base support level, which is $3,681.09 for this school year, you come up with that figure of $25,088,000. You add that, you multiply that same base level dollar amount to the new revised student count number, and you see how it does increase to the $25,267,000. which gives us a gain of roughly $179,000 to our M&O budget. Looking at budget balance carry forward, at the beginning, at the adopted process, at the end of last school year for this school year's budget, the estimate of carry forward was $1,099,000 and change that you see there. Based on current ADE reports, our actual budget balance carry forward is $1,878,398. So you can see that we picked up another $778,000, almost $779,000 for this budget year. Prop 123, at the beginning of the school year on the adopted budget, it was estimated that we would receive $251,363, which is real close to what we actually received at the end of June, after the election took place, after the vote took place. We actually received a number very close to that, so that's why it was estimated that we would receive that dollar amount again for this year. Based on what we're actually going to receive, at least at this time, it looks like we'll receive $244,000 for this year. So we do have a loss there of about $7,000. This is the actual page 8 of your page 7 of the budget. I'm sorry, I couldn't get it any bigger on this slide. So for those in the audience, it's probably kind of small to read. But if you look at that number right there, that number is the base number that you see right there in the revised column, that $25,267,742, in addition to the transportation revenue that we receive, which is around $901,000, plus our teacher experience index, which gives us a total of, and my eyes aren't that great either, which gives us a total of $26,458,712. And then if you continue on, that's the carry forward spoken of earlier, the $1,878,398. So that's the revision that's now on this new revised budget. And then that is the new Prop 123 estimate of the 244. That gives us a general budget limit of $28,599,993 that we would actually use for M&O and for unrestricted capital. Now, Carol mentioned briefly, and I'll actually share this for the budget adoption coming up in another month or so. On the far right column, you see that number. The district additional assistance actually calculates out to be $337,355. So we did take a little bit of a reduction there. The actual number that we should receive, and this is where in the next budget, the actual adopted budget, where I'll make this a little bit bigger so everyone can really see this. It's $2,567,853. Then right under that, the line just under that $2 million, there's a reduction, or they call it here, DAA reduction for state budget adjustments. So the adjustment is $2.2 million. So we qualify for $2.5 million, they take away $2.2. We're left over with $337,355 to take care of 9 facilities, if you count this one. Square footage that's just in the hundreds of thousands of square feet to actually maintain, or actually to replace equipment and just keep up with just the average normal life cycle, and just good effective rotation process of taking care of your equipment and rotating out the old and bringing in the new. It's hard to do that with a $337,000 budget. So that's what was mentioned just briefly here earlier this evening. So going into this is actually page 1 of the budget. This is for M&O purposes. Down at the very bottom there, the bottom right corner, that's that $28,599,993 amount that is now revised. So we did pick up some money here. And everything is now recalculated and rebudgeted just with minor corrections to actually total that amount. If we don't make those corrections in the budget, then that bottom right number is what we actually get. So if we don't adjust our figures to match the new general budget limit, we lose money. So it's important for us to go back in and refigure budgets in salaries and benefits and supplies all the way across the board from left to right and from top down to actually come up with that bottom right figure that matches our general budget limit. What occurred, and this is no secret, as discussions from last year, there's a need to address our EBT. So the monies that were carried forward went straight to going into our EBT, and that was talked about last year as well. And this will break that down. So here's a Prop 123 slide. This is my last slide, just to kind of show a breakdown. I know that was requested earlier on. So in May of 2016, Prop 123 passed by voters, and it addressed the increased base level. So the increased base level, we went from $3,524.56 to $3,645. That was at the end of 2016. You'll remember that the vote didn't go out until like May 17th, if I remember right. The revision from last year didn't occur till June. So from June of the revised budget to the end of that fiscal year, there was no time to actually spend those dollars. Everything recalculated, and we qualified for more. You see it's $120 addition to the base level support, and you times that by our student count at the time, our weighted student count. At that time it was 6,966.65 students. We started at $24,554,000, and the passage of Prop 123 with the revised base level dollar amount brought us $25,393,000, all at the end of the year, all within the last few weeks of the school year. There's no time to do anything with that. So that addition of $839,000 was part of that carry forward adjustment that you saw in a couple slides previous. So that's why it was budgeted that we would have roughly $1 million in carry forward, because that was to come. Less expenditures or what was not expended last year in the budget, that's all freed up and then pushed forward as well. So just Prop 123 alone brought $839,000 right at the tail end of last year. Then in June, also at the tail end of last year, they also gave districts a percentage out of that $50 million that they're talking about as well, and releasing as part of that inflationary lawsuit. Our portion was $251,000. That was given to the district at the end of June of 2016. This year, and this explains the decrease in Prop 123 money from the $251 to the $244 a couple slides ago. We received a first payment in December of $122,108.77. So the total of Prop 123 money so far is $1.2 million. So you can see that from vote to actually pushing that money into the districts to current, or actually till December of 2016, we've received $1.2 million. Then you'll recall, I believe it was February, maybe January or February, there was a contribution to the EBT of like $1.066 million. That was part of the conversation last year to take Prop 123 money and put that into the EBT so that we can help shore that up, at least work towards doing that. So that's what you see as far as Prop 123, what we've received, and then the reason behind the $1,066,000 and change that was deposited into the EBT in January. And that's a basic summary. The board, again, they have the actual papers, but that's a summary and a glimpse for those who are attending, just to kind of see how that comes about. And its revision process, like I said, is largely ADM. If your ADM goes up, or the ADE says that your ADM is higher than you actually budgeted for, then you typically come out okay. If your ADM is lower than what you budgeted for, then that's where you have to start worrying about expenditures and how you're spending the money. So that's the revision that we have presented for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that breakdown. How often will we get the Prop 123 payments? Will it be twice a year?
As it is currently, they're saying twice a year. There'll be a December payment and then one towards the end of the fiscal year. And they told me, actually I was on the phone with them today, they told me that because I was questioning that dollar amount being different than the 251, and they confirmed it is based off of our ADM and a current percentage that they figure up in classroom site funds. But they said that you could pretty much just double that payment, and that's what we should get for the entire school year. So that's why we're at about 244,000.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'd just like to say, Mr. Murray, we appreciate you doing this, and I think the public gets a better understanding. It's easy to say the state owed us this much money, we didn't get it, oh, woe is us. Mr. Murray has to work with what we got. And I think it would help if everybody understands that he's having to go through these changes, because that's what we've got to operate with. We don't have that money the state promised us. We've got what he says we have.
What the state says we have, yeah. And what gets deposited into our account.
Thank you for your explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a question. So ADM for purposes of budget includes weighted students, the weights that students are given. But those weighted students cost more to educate.
Correct.
So that extra money is really going to go to educating those students. Yes?
Absolutely. I mean, Aggie can speak to that even more, but most of when you talk about weighted student count, and we're talking about weighted Group B students, which are typically special needs, and there's a few others in there. You're looking at, I have the worksheet here, the actual multiplier for some of these students is so small that it doesn't really give us a huge bump. For example, when we're talking about, and Addie, you can step in here too, when we're talking about like OHI or ADHD students.
Students that are learning disabled, which are the vast majority of our students who qualify for special education, we receive 0.003 times, which when you look at the numbers, it's less than probably $25 more for that student on a yearly basis. But our students who have the more severe disabilities that are considered low incidence, which means we have lesser of those students because they're not as common. We do get funded at a higher rate because they do need those occupational therapies, those physical therapies, those speech, and the level of support with our parapro. It does cost a lot more to educate them, and that is part of our maintenance and operation budget plus the additional grants that we receive.
Well, my question is, when I was looking at the figures, because all of a sudden this extra 200,000 showed up and some more money showed up, I thought, my goodness. But then if it's showing up mainly because of weighted student count, we really don't have a lot of extra money, do we?
No, but the positive is definitely so much better than the gain is much better than the loss.
But we shouldn't look at it as a surplus.
Right.
It's going to get spent.
Here's an example of that. So for our OHI category, you're talking 481.988 students. The multiplier, like Aggie said, is 0.003. We come out at 1.446 students. Well, 481 students, that's a lot of caseload. That's a lot. That's a lot of manpower time to address those needs. So when you're only gaining 1 point some odd students in that count, it's really, like you said, it's really not, we're not gaining. We're keeping our
I just
head
don't want it to show
at
up
the
in the
water line.
newspaper that we have another $1 million that magically showed up, or 800,000. I do have one more question. Oh, now with this new current year funding for next year, so we will predict that we won't have this money, even with weighted, even if we have increased student count, because we have declining enrollment, correct?
That's correct. We're going to have to budget. We're still going to have to set a budget and actually set a student count number, just so we, for budgeting purposes and actually for a taxpayer, set the taxpayer rate and the tax base. But we have to be careful with that, because where it's really going to be tricky is that if we estimate too high and we start to spend money on that level, we actually start to expend dollars and really increase our expenditures, and then our student enrollment count goes down. That count goes down. When we're losing money, we're not bringing that in, so then we run the risk of expending more than we're actually bringing in. So that this next year is going to be, for everyone in the state, it's going to be very interesting, and it's definitely going to be doable. It's just we have to be careful with how we're spending our money.
Thank you.
As always.
So, if I understand correctly, a regular student helps to pay for the needs of a special needs student. In other words, it's a shared cost among all of our ADM, and not just a weighted portion of it. Am I correct in that, Aggie?
We receive regular ADM for all students, so we get funding for them, plus we get the Group E add-on for them. So we get funding as a typical student, and then we get that on there. But the cost of special education is greater than our general ed, and we do, if you were to divide it equally, we are spending more per pupil for students with special needs.
And we are not getting that much more per pupil, so in answer to your question, the money that we get for all students is divided up to provide that additional support.
And Mr. Murray, do we get a check every month from the Arizona Department of Revenue, or do we need started money on hand every year to get ourselves going?
We get money each month, but it fluctuates because it depends on how much money is coming in from the tax base. There's months where it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then there's a month or two where it's in the $1 million range.
So having that carry forward is actually sound business?
Oh, absolutely.
It's critical in summer.
And not only that, is the unknown occurs. I mean, that's where it becomes, where communication becomes key, and where we're trying to maximize every dollar, and where we're actually trying to, it's difficult because there's a fine line between holding on to too much and letting go of too much. So good sound practices would be to make sure you have a reserve or a contingency so that when the unknown occurs, you can address those needs without taking it out on us as staff members and inconveniencing us as far as furlough days or whatever may happen. I think good sound practice is having a small reserve so that you can address those needs. Now the bond and the override will help. A lot of what we've been doing over the years is putting duct tape on equipment that should be replaced, which has been depleting M&O dollars. So now with the bond, that's going to help. It's not going to solve the problems for sure.
But that's not millions of dollars. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. Like the presentation a lot, but I think it's important to point out that when we start talking about that carryover every year, that's really the startup money. That's the operating cushion, if you will, that floats through the system. And we don't run our households without one. We don't run our businesses without one. and it's a necessary item within a school district.
I was just going to comment that it will be more necessary even next year, because as we talk about that, the question Mrs. Cox was asking about that predicting for our the current year funding and what we start with versus what we end with, that monthly payment, we have been fortunate this year that we were held harmless for any of those fluctuations in enrollment. The governor's budget does not have a hold harmless clause for next year. And so we will be funded based on the number of kids we have each month. Typically, our pattern would be that we would start the year larger than we end the year. And so we hire enough teachers and other staff to support the needs at the beginning of the year. If we aren't funded and we do drop, we'll need that carry forward to help basically continue to pay the salaries of everybody who we've hired so we could meet the needs at the beginning of the year.
One last question. Do we have set up, because I don't recall, a review process where every 3 months you give us an update on the budget status?
I don't believe there's a process, but we can establish one. And I don't have a problem with it.
I just think that knowing the situation of the budget, it would help a great deal if about every 3 months you just, not a big presentation like this, you just brought us up to speed in where the budget stood.
So budget compared to expenditures at the time? That's easy to do.
Cash flow analysis would be great.
Any questions? Go ahead and call for the vote now.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.4, approval of the monthly governing board meeting dates for 17-18. Mrs. Snyder.
Madam President, members of the board, these are the suggested meeting dates. The changes from the historic meeting dates, which would be the third, is that right? The third Tuesday of the month. We do have a meeting scheduled for the week of July 10th, and that is for budget approval. We would adopt our budget. You would see it in June, and then it would be approved in July, so you have that time window. And then in March, Tuesday, March 13th doesn't follow the pattern because of spring break. And then Tuesday, May 8th, similar to this year, because we do have budget revision deadlines, we have an early meeting in May. So those would be the only exceptions to board policy on those scheduled dates.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move we approve 6.4 as presented.
Seconded.
Any questions? Call for the vote.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.5, the first presentation and review of revised policies DIE audits, financial monitoring, and DJE bidding purchasing procedures. Mr. Murray?
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve the first presentation of revised policies DIE, audits, financial monitoring, and DJE, bidding purchasing procedures. Per Arizona School Boards Association Policy Services Advisories dated February 2017, the following policy revisions are being presented. Policy DIE, audits, financial monitoring, and policy DJE, bidding purchasing procedures.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any questions?
These appear to be just minor text updates, nothing major.
They couldn't have picked a worse set of that threw me off. DIE, bold, big.
Well, it is procurement, so.
There's no questions. I'll call for the vote.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.6, first presentation and review of revised policies JFABD, JFABD-EB, and admission of homeless students, and JFB, open enrollment. Who's doing this one, Mr. Gardner?
Madam President, Governing Board, it is recommended the Board approve the first presentation of revised policies JFABD, JFABD-EB, admission of homeless students, and JFB open enrollment. For Arizona School Boards Association Policy Services Advisories dated February 2017 and received on March 15th, the following policy revisions are being presented. Policy Advisory Number 577, Policy JFABD, JFABD-EB, admission of homeless students. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Improvement Act of 2001 is updated and reauthorized by the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, of 2015 is included in the policy in the exhibit. Policy Advisory Number 578, Policy JFB, open enrollment. Policy JFB has been revised to eliminate language which is not supported in statute.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion?
I move that we accept 6.6 as written.
I second.
Any questions? This really is all just ESSA updates, changing from No Child Left Behind, I believe. Let's see anything else. If there's no questions, we'll call for the vote.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Masden,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.7, first presentation and review of revised policies JR, JR-R, student records. Mr. Gardner?
Madam President, Governing Board, it is recommended the Board approve first presentation of revised policies JR, JR-R, student records. For Arizona School Boards Association Policy Services Advisories dated February 2017, received March 15th. The following policy revisions are being presented. Policy Advisory Number 581, Policy JR, JR-R, student records. Text and legal references in this policy and regulation have been updated as indicated in the manual updates and text changes. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Improvements Act of 2001 now includes, as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. NCLB and the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 has been replaced by ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. JR-R only changes on page 14 of 15.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
Second. Any questions? Discussion? Terry, call for the vote.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Masden,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.8, first presentation and review of revised policy JFBA, unsafe school choice. Mrs. Walter?
Madam President, members of the Board, it is recommended the Board approve the first presentation of revised policy JFBA, unsafe school choice. Per Arizona School Boards Association Policy Services Advisories dated February 2017, the following policy revisions are being presented. Policy Advisory Number 579, Policy JFBA, unsafe school choice. The text and legal references in this policy have been updated as indicated in the manual update text changes. NICOB and the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 have been replaced by ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve 6.8 as presented.
Seconded.
Any questions? Discussion? Terry, I'll call for the vote.
John Masden,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.9, approval of the high school student handbook for 2017-18. And I think Mrs. Sire will take that. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the Board, we are recommending that the Board approve the 2017-18 high school handbook. The student handbook has had several changes. Those were provided to the Board. In addition, as we noted before, the dress code changes, as well as there were some information about media and some updates for various things in that handbook. The high school athletics student handbook has had no changes except for the reduction of the fee for athletics from $800 to $400. These revisions have been reviewed by several, including the high school principal and myself, and we recommend that the Board adopt it as presented.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for item 6.9?
I move we accept 6.9 as listed.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
I do. Mr. Becker, these new additions about dress code, who will be enforcing those? And I know dress code at the high school, when you don't have a lot of administrators there to do this, how do you foresee this enforcement, which I am for? Do you have a plan?
We actually just addressed this morning at our ATM meeting where we started our discussion of that. And obviously, I will have to come up with a plan because the number of students that we do have at our high school, with the words that are put in and the description that is put in there, it's not just up to a female administrator, Ms. Festa, to deal with all of the female dress code problems. When those words are in there, anybody can deal with it at that point as an administrator. We will be relying heavily on our first hour teachers, and it's going to have to be part of our processes to start school at the beginning, and then as it cools off, obviously, we then shift mode into problems with dress code with jackets, and then again, we will have to be diligent with it in the spring as it warms up, as it is now, minus today. To deal with the same problem all over again, but we will have a process in place.
It might be a very interesting civic exercise for your students to learn how the shirt came about. And because students could not follow the rules, it was overwhelming for staff. And now they are regulated. You know, no one likes to be regulated. No one likes the next new law. But this is what happens in a society when we don't follow rules or follow laws. Someone comes along with a regulation that highly inconveniences you and no one likes it. So, I mean, it might be a nice thing for them to understand that the next thing might be school shorts or school shirt.
We are going to front load that.
Okay.
Pending tonight's approval.
Okay. Okay.
We assumed that it would go through, and we're going to lean heavily on the newspaper to hopefully produce a positive article in that stance, and then also give that opportunity for parents over the summer to start purchasing appropriate clothing for school.
And then the other question I had is about your cell phone policy. It looks to me as if it's still the same cell phone policy that was in the handbook when I was there. I could be wrong. How is that working for you? Because between cell phones and school clothing, you could do that all day long. And is it getting done? Is the cell phone policy as written actually getting enforced, and where is it getting enforced?
We are actually going to change how we're handling that in the classroom as well next year, where we have the cell phone hotels that will be hanging on the wall when a student walks in. If I'm student number 4, I place my cell phone in number 4's placeholder, and it's there for the remainder of the class. That way, when there is a question, if the kid does have a cell phone out at that time, there is no argument as to the reason of the kid even having their cell phone. It's classroom procedure, it's school procedure, it goes up on the wall, and it's dealt with in that manner. If the teacher does have a BYOD approved plan through both myself and Michelle Burke, they will be able to use their cell phones at that point, and it will not be in the holder of the cell phone hotel at that time.
And you believe your teachers are going to all buy into that and enforce that?
It actually came from the teachers to us, so I think that's pretty powerful when teachers are the same thing as students. They don't like mandates.
Yeah.
And so when they're coming to you with that idea.
Side question, what happens when a student walks off with my kid's phone tomorrow? Out of the holder.
Out of the holder.
If my kid's number 4 and number 8 takes their phone.
So I have a meeting, I meet once a month with the junior high principal, because she's done this job longer than I have and has expertise, and it keeps up the relationship between the high school and the middle school. They have implemented this at the middle school, so procedures and
they're on the teacher's desk.
The key is never the kids don't, it's the teacher doing it. That's
okay.
The key.
Well, that's the thing, because I do know that, yes, the junior high, the teachers collect them. But as a student, to put it in a holder.
But the teachers do it. That's what I'm saying. The teachers.
So it's not going to be somewhere.
Kids don't do it. The student hands it to the teacher puts it in, and so it's not the kids at the holder. We really thought through all of that.
Okay, that's, I just.
And that's why I'm meeting with her actually this Friday to go through that.
as a parent, just thinking.
And we currently have a large number of teachers who apply for themselves, and usually the self-hotel is behind the teacher's desk. And they don't have to bring it to class either.
No, yeah.
Right.
I prefer the, yeah.
As a parent and a board member, and as a board member, I get to see the discipline reviews, and also as a parent who's had to rescue his child's cell phone a couple of times. Amen. Thank you. This is one of the things where we're letting a tool come into a classroom, and the tool is becoming a problem, and it's something that consequencing children for. And I think over the years we've ramped up enforcement, if I'm looking at the handbook correctly, to where the first offense is 4 hours of detention.
We took it down.
Well, but you know what I'm saying is I look at it and I go, there's got to be a better way, and I think we've started down the right path on this, because the only other alternative I have as a parent is to say no phone, and this is a way where we can keep a kid with what they want. They want the cell phone. We can keep a child with communication back to the parents, which is what the parents are buying these things for. The only other thing I would say to technology is find a way to block Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat. Your new firewall should do all of this cool stuff, by the way. And Spotify and Pandora.
All the things we love.
All the things that they're actually getting consequence for, because that's why the phone is out.
I'd like to say, I knew we were going to vote on this tonight. I almost went to the superintendent's office the other day. And you're going to have a job on your hands. Because I saw at least one young lady leaving high school the other day, and she was wearing cut-off Levi's. And the only thing keeping those from being a thong was the fringe that was hanging down. And you're going to have your hands full. But I knew we were going to vote on it, and then we'll leave it to you.
Can I add something real quick? We are doing this K-12, and I can tell you we've already started implementing it at Oro Grande, and we gave 1 or 2 warnings, and we're not having any issues. So, I mean, we're trying to help and support middle school and not high school, so because we've got some 6th graders coming to Thunderbolt. And just because I've been present at the meetings, we were giving them enough heads up that this is changing, and so we've implemented it, and it's working. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'll just say that I'm sure that the high schoolers in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade are going to be thrilled tomorrow morning.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Masden,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen.
Yes. 6.10, approval of sole source Siemens Building Technologies. Mr. Murray?
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve Siemens Building Technologies Incorporated as the sole source for the proprietary fire alarm system housed at Lake Havasu High School, Smoke Tree Elementary, and Jamaica Elementary School. Siemens Building Technologies is the only manufacturer and distributor that is certified to work on the product line, including life safety systems such as SXL, INS2, IXL, MXL, and XLS systems, which are proprietary systems owned by Siemens programming software and hardware. There are no other business entities that Siemens certifies in the Las Vegas and Phoenix area. Proprietary software, firmware, programming, and components other companies have no access to. This rationale is verified by Robert Wellender, Siemens Fire Service Operations Manager in Las Vegas, in the attached letter dated April 10th, 2017.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for 6.10?
I make a motion we accept 6.10 as written.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Discussion?
Are these alarm panels up for replacement during this cycle of bonds we're going through?
Yes. Yeah.
Are we going to be buying any more Siemens alarm panels? Because I really don't like sole source closed systems like that.
Well, we'll go out to bid, and it'll have to have a bid panel.
I understand the answer, but if we had something malfunction on one of these alarm panels, how long does it take for them to send a truck into Lake Havasu?
3 hours.
So we get instant response all the time?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought we should probably talk about what we did in the work session. I can't remember who was speaking to Siemens in particular and about their certification process. Maybe it was you.
Well, and I was saying that I'd love to see a local vendor or another vendor Siemens certified in the area if we can get somebody else to certify out. Sole source, closed system, tough deal. Here's what we want, pay us or you don't have a fire alarm.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
What gives you more
The board
problem?
voted it in probably 20 years ago, yeah. It was, and the fire department actually suggested it to the school district. That's how, what I heard, how we got, the fire department said it's the best system out there. That's why they chose it.
Probably
But I agree
was.
with you on the sole source part, yeah.
Probably was back in the day.
Yeah.
So I was under the impression, based on the work session on this item, that Siemens had less problems, that it wasn't, I mean, I know it was harder to service because they were coming out of Las Vegas, but we weren't having the problems with the schools that
No, we're not.
that we do
They're
with the
our
other
best service
schools.
system out right now, even though it's antiquated, it's still our best system.
Okay,
by far.
that's what I wanted to get to. Thank you.
Can I just point out too that the sentence stating proprietary software, firmware, programming, and components, that's the extent of the sole source. I spoke to Mr. Waylander this afternoon just to seek clarification on that based on your comments during the work session. And the way it's written can be, I'm just going to put it out there, the way it's written could be deceiving. Based on his comments to me, they are proprietary on the programming side of the units themselves.
Okay.
They can be serviced by anyone. They can be worked on by anyone. Other people can order their parts. However, they have the in, if you will, because they're a Siemens. They're Siemens. But anything relating to programming, they have to do it because they have the electronics to have. They're the only ones that have the actual tools that will and the equipment to actually hook into their Siemens component and actually deal with the programming issue.
Well,
now, when it comes to maintaining, because you brought that up last week, when it comes to doing the maintenance on it, the annual certification,
correct.
According to Mr. Waylander, anyone can do that. So I just want that to be known.
So what we're voting on tonight is for the maintenance of the system, for the annual certification of the system, or is it for just ongoing repairs of the system and programming of the system?
And it's not in this packet. From what I saw, it's kind of all of the above. It's to maintain, it's to get ourselves onto their contract, if you will, so that we have preferred pricing because we are under contract with them. Now, if we went with someone else to do the regular maintenance day-to-day items and then there was a programming issue, we would be paying a lot more to have them come down from Las Vegas because we are not under contract with them. We're not entering into a contract under the sole proprietor.
So what would that look like dollars and cents then is the next question. I mean, is it worth exploring? I know it's not a lot of money, grand scheme for the size of the contract, but would that be worth at least exploring?
and with John stating that these are going to be replaced in the bond coming up probably within the next few years.
Well, they also say, like Mr. Murray, not to contradict you, but when he said that to you about they can be maintained, they still have to have them come down and run the program. We still have to have them, because if we said like Western Alarm comes down, they can test each one on their own merit, but then we can't get a printout program for them saying which one is bad, which one is good. They can't do that because they cannot get into that program. So they say, yes, they can come out and maintain it, and we can buy a part from them, and they will still have to come down, and we put a new part in, they have to come down and program that one part in. So when he's talking about maintaining, yes, they can come down and buy the part, they can buy the part, so like a third-party person would be buying that part, and then they can install that part. And then when we're all done doing that, we have to call them up to come down and put it back in our program and make it all work. So he's kind of misinterpreting to you how that works, because it really doesn't work that way. He's saying you can maintain it, but they really can't. I mean, it doesn't make sense what I'm saying. But
He told me that they can do the annual inspection. It's I don't have that number in front of me, the 7543A or whatever it is, the annual inspection. But I'm just stating what I wanted clarification, because I know you asked the question in the work session, and I believe that going through them, being a one-stop shop, and having them come down and being able to service, program, and those things would be the easier way to go. I just don't know, because we haven't talked about cost and how much it would be for.
I don't necessarily disagree with the thought process of a one vendor, one solution concept.
Especially if it's like John, if Mr. Whalen forgot that part of it in this conversation I had with him at 3 o'clock this afternoon, then I agree. I mean, we can't have one person do one thing and then call somebody from 200 miles away to finish the job.
Now these are 3 out of 8 schools, John. Who does the balance of our work?
CETAS does, the rest of some of the other ones, they're a local contractor here in town, and Western Alarm.
Okay, so we've got 3 companies that service our alarm systems.
And I agree with you, like you say, if we can get rid of that on the next one, it would be nice.
Any other questions?
I don't have a problem because we're not having big issues with this situation right now. But this response time does bother me. And I just want us to keep in mind next year, I don't see why, if Siemens controls 3 of our schools, we can't tell them, you have a responsibility subcontract for prompt service. If they say the machines can be worked on by anybody, then they ought to be able to subcontract somebody to come out there and fix it. Now, they might still have to send somebody down to program it, but you have somebody instantly on the job. Do you follow what I'm
And that's the issue, is the programming side of it, because we all know that technology is, everything is computer-based nowadays. So that is I think, the critical component to all this, and that's what makes it so difficult, is to entertaining the local side of things with the companies that we already deal with here locally, versus contracting with these people from Las Vegas who are Siemens authorized dealers and repair people, and taking care of it all in one. Because if it is a programming issue, which it could be, we're going to have to call them anyways. But I just know that you addressed it, you asked the questions, and I'm putting it out there because I'll say it tonight.
My concern is one of, let's say you have an alarm go off, and let's say there's some faulty programming that causes it. You've got a sensor that goes sideways and it kicks the thing off. I don't want a fire alarm going off in one of our schools for 3 hours, is my thought process. I want to have somebody who can come out and, if need be, get the whole thing shut down or find the faulty sensor and do something in short
Well,
order.
we reset them. We've been taught how to reset them and silence them, yeah. And we can shunt out certain ones that we want to do, like that till they get here and all that stuff.
But it's a guaranteed 3-hour response, or guaranteed 3-hour response by contract?
I don't know if I'm.
Or based on experience.
They've always been here within 3 hours after whatever time
Okay.
it takes. It's $600 every time they come down, but.
That's preferred pricing, huh?
Yeah.
I want to get that.
That's what you have to get community connections.
Is this a one-year contract?
It's a 1 year.
Any other questions? Go ahead and call for the vote.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
John Masden?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. 6.11, approval of general statement of assurances for fiscal year 2018. Mr. Gardner?
Madam President, Governing Board is recommending the Governing Board approve the required annual filing of the fiscal year 2018 General Statement of Assurance to the Arizona Department of Education. Further, it is recommended that Brad Gardner, Agnes Walter, Michael Murray, and Michelle Yuso be authorized agents for federal grants. Each year, the Department of Education is required to have on file a general statement of assurance from all school districts applying for federal funds. This annual statement must be approved by the Governing Board and signed by the Board President.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for 6.11?
I move we approve 6.11 as presented.
I second it.
Any questions? I'll call for the vote.
John Masden?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. 6.12, approve resolution opposing empowerment scholarship accounts expansion. Mrs. Versailles?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As Mrs. Nowakowski talked about earlier today, we do have the Empowerment Scholarship Account expansion that has been signed by the governor. This was occurred during the first week of April, which expanded those Empowerment Scholarship accounts to all students K through 12 by the year 2020 with a 3-year phase-in period. The interesting part of the Empowerment Scholarship phase-in plan is it allows students to transition at grade levels K1, 6, and 9 for the 17-18 school year. And then the way it's designed is they could then continue their enrollment wherever they are because the ESA expands to those grade levels in the following year. As we know, public funds will be used to support educational options that are not subject to the same level of accountability for student learning as the public schools. And so we have proposed a resolution that was initially drafted by the Arizona School Boards Association, but we have asked for some revisions and are proposing that to the board for approval. The actual resolution talks about the general issues with the Arizona State Constitution that this empowerment scholarships violate. We also have added some information to our resolution that was not in the original ASBA resolution. And if I may, I would like to share those points.
Please.
That would include that the ESA deems a child eligible to enroll in kindergarten if the child is at least 4 but under 6 years of age, which directly contradicts ARS 15-821, which allows public schools to enroll a student in kindergarten if the child reaches the age of 5 before September 1 of the current school year. The second area that we've talked about, and we did hear from our speaker earlier about the pay for school teachers, but also Arizona ranks 50th in school spending, with Arizona teachers receiving the lowest salaries in the nation and a growing teacher shortage crisis due to low pay and unacceptable working conditions. Because the ESA takes money away from public education, this further impacts or exacerbates these data. And then our final addition there was a comment about in the original ASBA resolution that the measures contained in SB 1431 do not safeguard the state's general fund enough. And the ESA proponents have already vowed to repeal even those minimal safeguards. So while there are very few safeguards, the movement is to even repeal those. So we are recommending that the board adopt this resolution and that we then send it to each and every legislator, the governor, and anyone else who will listen.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for 6.12?
I move that we approve this motion as presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion?
I'd like to make a comment. I said it in the work session. I do not support the board, as a rule, getting involved in political situations. We have to live with the situation we're handed. However, this is serious enough that I feel we need to make a statement. I just want everybody to know, I don't think that the board should make this a habit of making political statements. That's all I've got.
I agree with Al on this one. We should be doing resolutions because we're happy about something. The last resolution I have that I remember watching sits on my desk. It was for a day for my dad. I look at this and I look at what they're doing, and this goes back to what I was talking about with Mr. Murray and Ms. Walter about dollars per student in special education. We fund dollars per student, and we're funding an aggregate. We're not funding the finite dollar cost for each student. We're funding an average. When we take that money away, what we are doing is we are slowly stripping away the money that goes into these special needs programs. And we will hit a point where this becomes a tax increase. When you hit that point, they're going to come knocking on your door and they go, oh, by the way, we have all these special needs kids left. What do we do with them? Here's your tax increase. Here's what we're going to do. And on we go. I cannot for the life of me believe that we have a conservative group down in Phoenix, conservative group, that would breach the point where they have a potential for a tax increase like that, number one. Number two would violate state law. Number three would violate the state constitution over making sure that a private school gets money. I personally, I just find it unconscionable. I find it objectionable. When we started our country, we had a guy named John Adams and we had a guy named Thomas Jefferson who sat on two different ends of the spectrum. And they squabbled over everything except public education. They agreed on public education. They both were proponents of it. We've had public education in our country before its founding. It goes back to the 1600s. And here we are, and we're talking about letting a 4-year-old go to a private school, but not a public school. I find a lot of this just unconscionable. I find it objectionable. I find the social contract being eroded by it. And frankly, the biggest reason to have a public school is to have an informed electorate to continue the republic. And whether you're a liberal or a conservative, a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, you have a stated need for something like a public education system to keep what we've got going. I don't know where they're coming from. I wish I did.
Well said.
I'm just going to add that when you look at the funding for charters and this expansion of ESA and with the replacement of 301 with 123 and the seat time issue that we're having, and I know of one other person in the room that watched the budget reconciliation arguments going on the other night, and I have to say that it was very disturbing to watch amendment after amendment be offered up, one of them being the Auditor General, an amendment to ask the recipient schools of the ESAs and the charters to be audited by the Auditor General like we are. And those amendments were denied. So I disagree with Alan. I think everything that has to do with public schools these days is absolutely political. And if you're not involved with it, it's going to run over you, because that's what I think happened for a really long time. So anyways, I'm all about this resolution, so if nobody has anything, yeah. I'll go call for the vote if there's nothing else.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
John Masden?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. Okay, 6.13, approval of contracted services through Educational Services, Inc. for sub-source program. Mrs. Meyer.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the contract for services with Educational Services, Inc., ESI, for the subsource program for the 2017-2018 school year. With the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act requiring health care for long-term substitutes and variable hour employees, the district has assumed the costs of health care for all of our long-term substitutes. Assigning these employees to ESI transfers the PPACA liability away from the district and allows the substitutes to work as often as they want. The district will no longer pay for ACA medical insurance costs. In addition, starting on July 1st, 2017, employers must permit employees to accrue and use up to 40 hours of paid sick time per year. ESI will track this benefit and pay for all eligible sick time without impact to the availability of substitutes for the district. Indemnification will be provided to protect the district from any fines, assessments, and penalties related to ACA and other legislative initiatives. Our substitutes will continue to work with our sub-coordinator and use ASOP to accept jobs. Our teachers and administrators will continue to be able to request specific substitutes through ASOP, work with our sub-coordinator, and provide feedback. Cost to the district will be 10% of daily rate of substitute pay, and I have that attached. This has been reviewed by purchasing and legal counsel.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for 6.13?
I'll make the motion, we accept 6.13 as written.
I'll second it.
Any questions?
I have some.
Really?
Sorry.
Count on it. Go for it.
Professional liability. How does that get handled under this?
ESI does not offer professional liability unless the substitute wants to pay for that themselves at $50 a year. However, Mr. Murray and I did contact the trust who currently offers that to our district, and they will be covered under the trust.
Okay. And then question came up when I posted the meeting tonight, and this was going to be one of the topics on Facebook. Do years of service count towards, say, student loan forgiveness?
Not that I'm aware of. I've signed many a paper for loan forgiveness for our teachers, and it specifically states that they have years of service as a certified teacher with the school district.
Okay. And then the next question I have is, we have an out in this if we don't like it? If this costs us, let's say we get into this and we find out that our actual cost under ESI is say instead of being more of an even kill number, we're spending $10,000 or $15,000 more on sub pay. What's our out point on that?
Well, it's on page 3, as Mrs. Osire pointed out, this agreement may be terminated by either party for any reason at any time prior to the expiration of the term by providing 90-day written notice.
Okay. And then on the numbers that were provided, if I remember from the work session correctly, we've got one full year in 15-16, and then we took a part of the 15-16 to fill in 16-17.
Correct. In 15-16, as you can see, the total wages for the year for substitutes was $601,541, and then the health benefits cost was noted at $27,004. So the net admin fee dropped to 2.84% versus the 10%, and we would only be paying about $20,000 that year for that particular service. In 2016-17, these are year-to-date numbers as far as the sub-wages, which are at $561,009. And this year we are currently paying health benefits for 9 long-term subs, which is at a cost of $63,588. So in this particular year, up to this point, it would actually be a cost savings of $23,970.
And then why would the net admin fee go to 0?
Because we would actually be saving money versus paying any money out.
Okay.
But we'll still pay them, but the net fee is what
Right.
we pay them, we will get back, plus we'll save them.
Okay. And where are we finding those cost savings? Is it in utilization? Is it in benefit cost? Is it?
Well, what I'm sharing here with you is the benefit costs, is what I've got in this paperwork.
So we're saving money against benefit cost?
In this, yes, in what I have written here, but it's also going to save us in manpower as well, based on payroll and the time commitment they have each week to processing the substitute pay and so on.
So in essence, when we get to brass tacks on this, for the employee, no matter how they interface, no matter what they come up with, the thing that literally changes here is the name on the check every month.
Correct. They'll be, ESI will actually come to Lake Havasu City if this is in fact approved, either at the end of May, beginning of June, to onboard our substitutes and help them make that move to uploading all the documents for ESI. But beyond that, they will be going into ASOP just like they are now to take jobs. Principals and teachers will be using the same to pick any subs that they like or make any comments or provide feedback, just exactly how they're doing right now.
Will they be in ESI's benefit plan or not?
ESI will offer them a plan.
And we still handle background check and...
Actually, ESI does all of that. Now, we have access to all of that, so we'll be able to see all of that information through their program. We'll be able to pull that up and see all of that.
Same little clearance card?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Yep, exactly.
How does the, is the rate for the daily pay or for long-term subs pay, is that based upon our district or is that ESI?
We set that. Yep,
so
we set that.
You determine, and is that what it's been for the last 2 or 3 years?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd just like to say that even if we wound up losing a little bit of money on this, just getting rid of the headaches is worth it. And I think you're thinking right. The only problem I have, and I just want to mention this, is, once you put the bear in the cage, somebody's got to take care of it. We could wind up with the tail wagging the dog. We have to be careful we maintain the control of this. What we forget is that we're actually hiring a position. Just as though you were hiring a person to run an office in here to take care of all this, you're hiring them to take care of all these things, and that's wonderful. But once they're here, we own them. I mean, they're here.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to mention it. I'm supporting it because I can see tremendous benefits in it, but I can also see the dark side to it.
Any plans to increase that sub pay?
Well, I would like that my next topic of conversation, because if we are able to save a little bit of money, that's what I would absolutely like to do.
Any other questions? Call for the vote.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
John Maston?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. 6.14, approval of renewal of memorandum of agreement for WACOG Head Start for provision of preschool and special education services. Mrs. Walter.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the renewal of the memorandum of agreement of WACOG, which is Western Arizona Council of Government Head Start, for the provision of preschool special education services for the period of August 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2019. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, known as IDEA 2004, Public Law 10517, and Public Law 92-424, and Head Start Reauthorization Act of 2007 require Head Start programs to collaborate with local education agencies to ensure the early identification of preschool students with disabilities and the provision of services in the least restrictive environment. Approval of the renewal of the memorandum of agreement outlines expectations and guidance that will enable the district and WACOG to continue to collaborate to better identify at-risk preschool students and to provide support and services in the least restrictive environment in a cost-effective manner. This agreement has been approved by legal counsel.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on 6.14?
I move we accept 6.14 as written.
Second.
Any questions? Call for the vote.
John Maston,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.15, approval of memorandum of understanding for WACOG Head Start collaborative kindergarten transition activities. Mrs. Walter.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the renewal of the memorandum of understanding for WACOG Head Start collaborative kindergarten transition activities for the period of August 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2019. The Improving Head Start for School Readiness Act of 2007 requires Head Start programs to collaborate with local education agencies to ensure the orderly and smooth transition of children from the Head Start into appropriate kindergarten programs in their local community. Approval of this renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding outlines expectations and guidance that will enable the district and WACOG Head Start to continue to work collaboratively to better support students attending Head Start transitioning into kindergarten. This agreement has been reviewed by our legal counsel.
Thank you. Can we get a motion?
I make a motion we accept 6.15 as presented.
I second it.
Any questions? Call for vote.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.16, approval of purchase of contracted school psychologist services with Soliant Health. Mrs. Walter.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve the purchase of contracted school psychologist services with Soliant Health for the 2017-18 school year, not to exceed $115,000. The district has taken action to recruit qualified school psychologists but has had difficulty filling these openings. Soliant Health is an approved vendor as part of the SAVE contract, RFP 14-002-5. We are requesting approval for the purchase of contracted school psychologist services for the 2017-18 school year with Soliant at a rate not to exceed $75 an hour. The district is obligated to ensure the provision of services for eligible students to receive a free appropriate public education for students requiring related services required under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Funds from the M&O budget will be used to pay for the services. This has been reviewed by purchasing and legal counsel.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept item 6.16 as presented.
Second.
Any questions?
So if we wanted to buy this person out after their first year, we would pay $40,250. It's a 35% buyout.
They do have that requirement. They also have their minimum fee, so we would enter into that negotiation with them if that's what we wanted to do, and that is according to this what that fee would be.
I think it's something worth looking at. I hate to say a recruitment cost that high, but if it's as rare of an animal as we think it is, it may be worth doing.
Any other questions? Call for the vote.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes. 6.17, first presentation and review, revised policy GCCA, professional support staff sick leave. Mrs. Minor.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve the first presentation of revised policy GCCA, professional and support staff sick leave. For Arizona School Boards Association Policy Services, and received March 15th, the following policy revisions are being presented. Policy Advisory number 571, Policy GCCA, Professional and Support Staff Sick Leave, and the following is as written for 2 pages long.
You're not going to read them all?
I am not.
I thought you were going to read the whole
I knew you were waiting.
too.
I know you were all waiting with bated breath.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve 6.17 as presented.
Second.
Any questions?
This is the Prop 206 fix, right?
Among other things, yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of staff members here. Any questions from the staff?
That's your sick pay?
They don't
Any
pay
days
you.
we don't use because that's
Okay. No questions, I'll call.
John Baston?
Yes.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. 6.18, approval of vouchers, student activity funds, and auxiliary funds. Mr. Murray.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that you approve the vouchers for April 2017, as well as student activity funds for K through 12 and auxiliary funds as well.
Can I get a motion for 6.18?
So motion, we approve 6.18 as published.
I second.
I have one question. So the one that was on my desk said amended, and so maybe it was just a copy error, but I don't see that it was amended. Maybe somebody copied the wrong thing.
No, this one here was amended because I believe, I'm trying to find the code.
525 is not on there.
515, correct.
Oh,
That'll
okay.
be on there. We're trying to
Okay.
do that for the next meeting. Is it 515? 515 and 520 were changed. There was an error. The amount in 515 was supposed to be in 520. So there's $0 in Civic Center, and that amount of money was put into 520 community schools.
Okay.
And I had my...
I couldn't find it. It was the same total. Maybe that's why. Thank you.
my cheat sheet.
What, remind me, what are we funding when we fund community schools?
Community schools, like for example here, that was a fence installation at one of our sites, so we use that.
It was what?
A fence installation.
A fence.
Armor Fencing was the contractor. And we
Oh.
had a fence installation that needed to occur.
A local contractor.
We did. We used a local contractor.
The summary that you have in front of you, they're actually, most of these expenditures that you see are open purchase orders and those things. So really there were just two that really stood out as far as the dollar amounts. Is there a typo?
No, I was just pointing out something. Thank you. Sarah, did you get a motion already? Yes. I did, thank you. Any questions? Call for the vote.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
John Baston?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes. Okay, now we'll move to informational. Turn it over to Mrs. Desire.
Thank you. As always, I'd like to point out the donations that we have received, and one in particular, we talked about how generous our community is. We had over $16,000 in value again in this month for donations. However, we did have an anonymous donor. We've had that happen on occasion, and the anonymous donor donated the chairs that you see here in the boardroom, which are new, as well as office furniture, chairs, desks, tables to several of our school sites. And so this was really quite a benefit for us, and the individual does not want to take any recognition, so we do appreciate when that happens, as we benefit. I also would like to point out that we do have reports from our Educational Services Grants Division and from our personnel, and some of the work that we've been doing to fill positions this year. We are in, from what I understand, because I was not here this time last year, we're in really good shape compared to last year, so that's exciting. The final thing I would like to mention, as for the second time this last Friday, we had a transformer that blew. That was not our issue. It was a Unisource issue. However, unfortunately, it did cause us to have to do, for the second time, shut down the high school because of the electricity. In this particular case, it was already hot, and we had no electricity, no air conditioning, no lighting, and in this case, the surge also damaged some of our equipment. So we are going and doing an analysis. Our tech department spent many hours of overtime going through and making sure that everything would be up and running for school on Monday morning, and did replace some items as well. And so we have equipment, we have overtime, we have loss of student time, we have loss of productivity because the internet was down district-wide as well as at the high school. So we are gathering the information about the cost of that particular transformer incident to see if we can't recoup some of that.
And we'll have to make the day up.
Actually, we do not. We managed to have a minimum day.
Oh, good.
And so we did have instructional minutes that were sufficient. I also, in addition to all of our tech staff and the work that they did, I appreciate Mr. Becker and his staff, the assistant principals and the high school staff, because this is the third time this year they've had to deal with an emergency at the high school. It's very unusual.
I'd like to give them a hand too, because the fire department came, they had to clear room by room. There's a lot involved in what they did. Also, are they inside? Are they outside? Are they in the gym? Are they in the pack? Where do we put students? And so, a lot of thought, a lot of I think well thought out things that happened during that. And I think you never want to test your emergency plan, but if you were going to test it, this would be the result you would want.
Just as an informational item at the next meeting, could you just, if you get how much this cost us, could you just put it out as an informational item? We talk about the bond, the override facilities and all this. I think sometimes people don't realize just how expensive some of these repairs become.
Not just repairs, the repair is the light cost. You know, it's that soft cost. It's the loss of instructional time. It's the internet being down, the loss of productivity. That's where you get the multipliers going.
I think it's something that most people, you talk about what it costs us when something this occurs, and I don't think most people understand the magnitude of it.
Absolutely. And Mrs. Miner and her staff are working on that, putting it together for us.
Do any of the board members have any updates to give or expression?
I'd like us to undertake Expect More Arizona on the next agenda.
Well, I had that under my board suggestion for future agenda items.
Same.
Okay.
Aggie, how many, Mrs. Walters, how many students do we have who were designated as homeless this year?
I don't have that, Brad. Can you know the number actually?
That fluctuates. I don't have an actual number right now, but it's not, we don't have as many as we've had in the past.
Can you, 17, 45?
I would say 20-ish.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the last call to public. Any takers? Step to the microphone. Okay, no takers. I've got Expect More Arizona, that's all I have. Anybody have any future agenda items? Okay. I'm sorry,
the transformer cost.
Does the press have any questions?
I'm good at this time.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Bill Nelson?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
Nicole Polly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, if I